Bitcoin is sitting at $28,000, and what a lot of people have probably just missed is that Bitcoin has closed a weekly candle, which could actually be very, very significant for its future. See, we had this really bearish engulfing candle for Bitcoin right here, where within one weekly candle we overshadowed the previous 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of trading just with one candle. We eclipsed all of that, which is called a bearish engulfing candle. And typically when we form patterns like that, it is extremely bearish for the market. And it actually means that we're going to be headed very, very low. Generally, that's what it means. But we've had a big saving, kind of relief here, which could indicate that this isn't going to happen and that we at least maybe stay sideways for a little bit. If not, maybe we dump slowly instead of, very aggressively, or even that we're angled higher. But what's clear is that with this weekly candle, we're doing better. We're not pointing heavily to the downside for big, downside targets the way it looked like with this weekly candle. And the reason I'm saying that is all just because of the formation of these candles. See, if you take a look at these candles just on their own, what you can see is we had this weekly engulfing candle, but typically the very next candle after we form these engulfing candles is going to be a big drop. That's generally what happens, right? Take a look at this. We formed a big weekly engulfing candle here. We eclipsed the previous 1, 2, 3 weeks of price action. These 3 candles all erased within 1 week. And the very next week, we drop really hard, right? From open to close, market drops by 9%. On this occasion here, from open to close, we actually went up by about 6%. So we're clearly not dropping down in response to a really bearish price development. And it's not just over here. I want to make this very clear with you. Here's another bearish engulfing candle. We engulfed the previous 3 weeks of trading here as well. 1, 2, and 3 all engulfed within this 1 weekly candle. The very next candle we continue to drop. So again, no surprises here. This is very, very standard when we form engulfing candles. There are so many more examples of this that I can find for you. It's almost just not even worth doing. But here's another beautiful one, very similar to what we were in just last week, where this 1 weekly candle eclipsed the previous 4 weeks of trading. And then look at what happened the very next week. The very next week we dropped down by 2-3%, but the week after that it was even worse, down by 15%, and if we measure it down to the wick, it was actually down by 30%. All of that triggered just from 1 weekly candle that engulfed the previous 4 weeks of trading. This is really similar to what we had up here, right? We formed it at a top. This was also formed at a top, right? We formed this at a top. We had a weekly candle engulfing 4 weeks of trading, and it didn't result in downside. And that is a really big deal. It's kind of hard for me to stress how important that is, because when you've got this situation in the market where something really bearish happens and we just kind of don't really do anything with it, that can be a really big sign of good things to come. It can be a sign of really, really exciting opportunities in terms of the market continuing to trade up. And that's what I want to discuss with you. But before I do, I want to bring BitGet up to you guys. Now, you guys already know the deal. Bybit, if you're trading on it, if I've referred you to it, is introducing mandatory KYC. And that's not going to be to everyone's taste. And I completely understand why. Privacy is very, very important. But BitGet on screen right here doesn't require KYC. You guys have heard me talk about them in the past. I've worked with them in the past and I've used them. They are another solid exchange. The thing about these exchanges is that they're all very similar. They're generally, the biggest ones are all pretty good in general. And BitGet is no exception to that. BitGet is just as good as the rest of them as far as I'm concerned. And when you sign up to BitGet following my link in the description, you're going to get up to $8,000. So it's not quite the $30,000 that Bybit is giving you, but you don't have to do KYC to trade on this exchange. In fact, you don't even need a VPN, which is really, really cool. So check them out if you're interested. Obviously, this is going to be a problem for people with what's going on with Bybit, and it doesn't have to be a problem for you if you follow that link in the description, sign up and start trading. Like I said, they will give you up to $8,000 just free money, and that is money that you can trade with, that you can deploy into the market, and if you make any profits, you can withdraw it as well. So check it out using my link down below if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's super, super easy to get started. And here's the thing, is that we've kind of ended up falling a little bit lower in the short-term market here. But again, the thing is that we are just kind of mostly trading sideways, and that is, I think, a good sign, right? I mean, when we get a big dump like this, if the next thing that we do is not continue to dump, that's a really good sign, because it's showing us that we can sustain a big sell-off like this, but it doesn't have to turn into a disaster. We can just kind of hold our price levels, which sends a really clear message to the bears, which is that whatever strength they thought they had here, it's not enough to take the market lower. And it also tells the bulls that whatever strength the bears had, it wasn't enough to overcome this support area right here. And that's exactly where we're headed to right now. But just with this chart, look at all of the trading that happened right here, and then look at the orange line that represents our current price. We are right now trading in a very high traffic area for Bitcoin, in a really important area for Bitcoin, where typically when Bitcoin enters this kind of price area where there's so much consolidation, it should be able to provide support to Bitcoin. Now, the primary problem with what I've just said is that nothing in the market has really made sense over the last weeks, especially kind of with the crazy price action that happened right here. This was all a little bit just, none of it really made sense, right? So it's kind of hard to analyze the market when that kind of thing is going on, because there's just not a lot of liquidity. But, we don't need to look at what's going on with the really short-term time frame, right? The really short-term time frame is clear. Maybe we find a little bit of support here. If not, maybe we find that support down at 27. But what's still very, very clear, if we zoom out onto, say, the daily time frame, is that we are holding up at this resistance area, right? We might be having some trouble, but the fact that we're still here and we haven't slipped below the yellow line is a big deal. Now, I really didn't want to see Bitcoin lose this area of support at 28.8, and we have lost it conclusively, right? We came a little bit lower than it originally, so it kind of looked like maybe we could recover back up, but then we just dipped down again. So we have lost this kind of intraday level of support, I suppose you could call it, but it's not the end of the world. You could drag this line down to here. There's still a lot of price interactions here, but it still means we've lost it. It is a shame, but like I said, this is where a lot of consolidation has happened, right? So if there's any place that Bitcoin has support, it is right now. And the thing to keep in mind is that if we do lose this area of support, we'll probably drop much more, because from what I'm seeing, there isn't any more support for Bitcoin until 25K. So we'd be looking at this drop, which actually is pretty nice to trade. It's a nice kind of 7% range. It's not huge, but it's certainly not small. And with a bit of leverage, 10x, that can turn into a 71% profit, right? So you don't want to ignore that kind of thing either. Like I said, if you're looking for a place to trade that's not going to hassle you with KYC and stuff like that, BitGet is the place to be. So check it out using that link in the description down below. You guys heard me talking about them quite a bit last year, and I do want to bring them back to your attention now, just given that, the KYC thing is kind of going around. But just as an option, by the way, there's so many options, and bottom line, it's completely up to you what you choose. But, for me, it's not a problem for me, but at the same time, I don't want to, I like having my options open, and that's what BitGet represents for me. So that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. But yeah, this area of support here, if there's anything that should cushion Bitcoin a little bit, it's this right here. And the good news is that if we are able to hold where we are right now, we're going to find some really big support in a few days. And this is really significant in my opinion. It's not a few days, I'm sorry, it's more like a week. But this is really significant in my opinion, 2 weeks even. I'm tripping over myself with my words here. Oh no, it is more like a week, my bad. About 10 days, from now, if we kind of fall down to this area, we should be able to expect some support. I keep getting the dates wrong. It's actually 14, 15 days. Yeah, it's 2 weeks, where Bitcoin should be able to bounce off this area. And I think that's a really big deal, right? As long as we don't just collapse below this area now, if we wait a little bit, we're basically going to find ourselves in the same position as here. The 𝗢𝗙𝗥𝗙𝗚𝗓 cloud is a weird one, right? Like, it's one of those indicators that almost just, it seems like it comes out of nowhere, almost when you least expect it. It's like you've got here's a bad analogy for it. You've got your warrior just like, wandering across the wilderness, like killing enemies or whatever the case may be. But he's got this dog, right? And this dog lost him when they were 5 years old, but 20 years later the dog finds him because it's written by Hollywood directors, and so everyone loves dogs. So the dog finds him 20 years later and just kind of has his back, just kind of waiting in the shadows until shit gets really bad, right? When shit gets really bad, that's when the dog comes back in and just saves the main character. And I almost I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen now with whether we drop down that low or only down to here, but that's how this cloud behaves, right? Like we go off, we do our own thing, shit happens, things go wrong, and then don't worry about it because the cloud's got you. You know, like, I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you go back and look at the way the price has actually been able to interact with, these Ichimoku clouds, especially during like really nice uptrends, it's super, super clear, right? Here's a big bounce here from low to high. It's a 25% bounce, which is absolutely beautiful. But if we go further back within the same Ichimoku cloud, it's so clear that this cloud is one of the, key indicators that just, we're predicting big bounces for Bitcoin here. This is the bounce here off the $10,000 level that triggered the rally to $64,000. So you can't fade that. That's a really, really big deal. Here's another one right here. Like the cloud just kind of has our back, right? Like it's almost in a sense unpredictable when it'll be useful, but right now it's not actually that unpredictable. It's kind of just right there. It's 2 weeks away. So if we're able to hold here, I think Bitcoin's going to find itself in a potentially really powerful position where we've basically just consolidated. I mean, from this point to, if we hit the cloud, right where it forms at the, at the bottom of our support range, we've consolidated effectively for 60 days, right? Like that's more than enough consolidation to then continue to move up. So I think that's a real path for Bitcoin to continue to climb higher. Now, I want to take a quick look at dominance before I actually really zoom in on this on the 𝗬𝗙𝗙𝗚𝗓𝗓 daily channel. Now, if you're not already subscribed, head on to the first link in the description and you can check that out. But the Bitcoin dominance is looking a little bit more interesting today because we're finally starting to see a bit of a pullback here. So this is exactly what we would expect at a resistance level. And it's not looking crazy, right? I want to be very clear. We're just kind of dropping a little bit and dominance is behaving quite weirdly as well right now. But if we do see this thing continue to drop, that's where we could start to see some relief for altcoins, right? Like if Bitcoin is just going to, kind of steam sideways and just kind of cruise a little bit, seeing the dominance drop, seeing altcoins respond positively to that, it is something that I would expect. So, we might be seeing the start of that now with Ethereum climbing against Bitcoin a little bit, and just in general the results of the dominance dropping. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a big drop because we've been behaving so weirdly, so I'm not going to try and make a big prediction on that. But again, what I will stress to you and what I've said many times over is this is an area of resistance, and even though we're responding to it with so much strength this time around, simply because previously every time we got up anywhere near this high, we very quickly fell down again. The dominance just dropped very quickly as soon as it went back up here. On this occasion, we've held for weeks, which is extremely unusual, right? From when we got here to now, it's been 45 days. It's been a month and a half, guys. That's kind of crazy, to think that we've been up here for so long. So clearly this is showing signs that it could break up. But at the same time, this is still an area of resistance. And, it's I don't know which way to lean on this particular discussion. Bottom line, I think that these coins are generally in positions where they're looking attractive to buy. I mean, it really depends on your outlook. There's some really nice short opportunities I'm seeing here as well. There is a lot to discuss. I'll talk about that on the altcoin channel. So if you're interested in that stuff, then check it out with the first link in the description. I'm about to fire off. I'm not sure how many videos I'll make for altcoins, maybe like 3 or 4. So if you want to check them out, make sure you are subscribed to that YouTube channel so you don't miss out on that content. But more to the point of Bitcoin, I guess one of the important things is going to be traditional finance. S&P 500 still looking pretty good. I mean, I'm not worried about this. It is going to close trading session soon. It's only got about an hour left, but throughout the course of today we peaked a little bit higher. Yes, we've pulled back a little bit, but guys, we've just rallied up massively. We actually gapped up, so we've made a 3% rally across 4 or 5 days. I know it's nothing crazy compared to Bitcoin, but for the S&P 500, which represents 500 of the top companies in the United States, this is a big deal. And so if we do kind of continue to move up, this is the major saving grace for Bitcoin, right? This is actually one of the best things going in Bitcoin's favor right now, is that even though there's all this weird shit going on in crypto right now, traditional finance is still strong. Gold still holding up really, really nicely up here in the $1,900 range, right at the top of it, actually, just showing the $2,000 level. Look, we're consolidating, charging up for that next rally up, which looks absolutely beautiful. All of this on a day where the dollar has moved up by quite a bit, right? If we take a look at the dollar is quite high compared to the lows that it was sitting at in the recent days here, so we're seeing a little bit of, temporary strength in the dollar, but that's not translating to weakness across traditional finance. So, again, we're not seeing problems here for Bitcoin from a more macro perspective. It's almost just a case of if Bitcoin can hold on, if Bitcoin can just not fuck up for the next week or two, and give traditional finance a chance to play out what it's already set to play out, where it's already got the setup to rise, right? It might not happen. Don't get me wrong. Nothing is guaranteed, but it's the setup that I'm seeing very clearly right now. We had a big pullback. Now we had a little pullback. This is our third attempt of the same resistance level. It's not the strongest resistance level in the world anyway, so it's not like this is going to hold us back for months, I think, necessarily. Or I guess it already has been months because we've been rejected here about 80 days ago. But it's not going to be like the most disastrous resistance level in the world, in my opinion at least. So we've got a really good setup, right? We've kind of formed everything we need to form to kind of, expect that breakout now. Again, no guarantee that it's going to happen, but if Bitcoin is just able to hold where it is right now, not do anything stupid just for the next little bit, well, we're consolidating right at resistance while traditional finance might break out. And again, I've been saying this for a while. I don't think that's going to, I don't think we're going to find ourselves in a situation where Bitcoin gets left behind, but traditional finance is rallying. I just don't think that's going to happen. Fear and greed index doing weird things, just kind of fluctuating in the greedy territory, which is not great. That's not something that I like to see. But the long and short ratio is looking a little bit better. We're still fairly close to neutral levels, especially compared to where we were before. Yes, we are majority long for retail, but I'm not too worried about that, just given how it has evened out quite nicely, given how open interest dropped after the weird kind of up, down price action that we had over these last kind of days. Bybit is majority short, so that's interesting to see, but really we're getting mostly neutral readings across the board here, so, there's nothing particularly crazy that I want to look into. Top traders are still majority long, expecting that upside, which again, the reason top traders are doing this, and it's the same thing for me. The reason I've held on to this position that's made me over $200,000 now, which you've seen me enter from the very beginning. I've been extremely transparent with you guys about my trades. The reason that traders are doing this kind of stuff is because when you're in a long position, top traders will have entered their long positions down here around where I did as well, because I keep saying this, I like to buy low and I like to sell high, right? I mean, I like to do things the correct way instead of the emotional way. And the reason that we've seen such stable top trader position numbers here is because they don't fuck around with their positions that often, right? Like, a lot of people think the more buttons they click, the more money they're going to make, but I keep stressing that that's actually not the case, right? Like, you kind of like, I've been in my long position since here and I'm just holding on to it because I haven't been invalidated yet, right? Like, the price hasn't actually done anything disastrous yet, so I don't need to get out of my position. I've already secured a lot of profits. I've secured more profit than this at this stage. This is an outdated screenshot, so I'm chilling in this position. I don't need to do anything crazy here, and I'm just kind of, I'm riding this trend, right? And that's why we're seeing the same thing for top traders, right? So, I mean, if we haven't been invalidated, it almost like the money talks, right? Like, if we haven't been invalidated and positions aren't closing as a result of that, then, and traditional finance is looking good. To me, it is just looking like one of these really good setups that could turn into a very exciting bit of price action for the market. Is there a possibility that we drop down and this turns into disaster? Of course there is, but I mean, as far as the setup, to do that, I don't see it, right? Like, I just don't see how the chart right now is heavily pointing to the downside, other than this weird shit going on here that like still doesn't make sense. It's just bot action anyway. Other than this, stuff that's going on here, like, there's nothing really that's super concerning, right? Like, we're at a heavy area of resistance, and we've been here for so long, for a month and a half, and we still haven't been rejected. So, when you look at it that way, how concerned do we have to be about that resistance level, really, right? Like, if it hasn't been a problem yet, and traditional finance looks like it's on the brink of breaking out, good things might be around the corner. They might, I don't know, but my money is talking. I'm still in my long position. I haven't changed that. Like I said, guys, if you're looking for an exchange to trade on that doesn't require mandatory KYC, BitGet is available right here. Like I said, you don't even need a VPN for this exchange. It's always a good idea to run a VPN. So it's, I'd still say it's a good idea, at least for me, but KYC is not required here. And like I said, up to $8,000 in rewards. So when you sign up using my link in the description and start trading, they will give you more free money to trade with that you can deploy into the market. Any profits are yours to keep, which is very cool. That is a lot of money to be able to trade with and potentially turn some profits with. You can throw it into anything you like. It doesn't matter, right? It's free money. If you lose it, no loss to you. But if you make money, you can keep those profits. So that is really, really cool. Check it out with the link in the description down below. Of course, if you're interested in Bybit, you already know the deal. Check out the link to Bybit down below and the iPhone giveaway. You only have to deposit $100 on Bybit to get access to that iPhone giveaway. So if that's something you think you're interested in, then you can also check out the link to Bybit in the description down below. You'll find them both over here. The BitGet link is also now in the description. So check that out. All right, guys, I really hope you have enjoyed this one. I'm going to see you on the altcoin channel. Hit up the like, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.